Hey everybody, it's Tony with Big T Bariatric, and I'm back with another video. Today it is Tuesday, April 4th, 2023. I hope you're having a wonderful day so far. If you could do me a huge favor, look below and see if you are not subscribed to this channel. Please hit that button for me. Leave a like, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this video as we close in on 5,000 subscribers. Thank you very much. I appreciate every single one of you and love you very much. Today's video is going to be a Kiana Docherty video on who's really to blame for these junk food kids. But before I hit play, I just want to tell you guys about tomorrow night. I'm having another, I'm calling it Big Talks with Big T. Somebody suggested I name it that. But every Wednesday evening, I'm going to have a sort of like a podcast type show. And I'm going to bring on guests. If you're interested in being a guest, send me an email at bigtbariatric@gmail.com, and I'll try to get you on. Tell me your story and what you want to share. I've had a few people send me emails, but I have a list of people that I'm trying to get on first. And so my friend Cassie Nova is going to be on tomorrow. I tried to do a live with her before, but I couldn't get it to figure it out, the technology part of it, because I'm not too bright when it comes to technology. But I finally got some stuff figured out, and I'm not going to use Zoom anymore. I found a different way of doing it. But I'm going to have my friend Cassie Nova on. We've been friends for a very long time, and so she has PCOS and she had bypass surgery, so she's going to tell me her story, and we're going to talk about some stuff. So tune in tomorrow night, Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and enjoy our conversation. But that's tomorrow. And yeah, so let's get into this video right away. This is who's really to blame for these junk food kids.
Britain's in the grip of an epidemic. A third of our children are now overweight or obese, and thousands have such bad diets that they're having to undergo major surgery.
Who's to blame for childhood obesity? Well, according to this UK documentary...
Did I just see a little kid being wheeled in a wheelchair because he's too fat to walk on his own? I mean, if he is legitimately disabled, then that's one thing. You know, I'm never going to pick on somebody who's legitimately disabled, but when you have a kid who is able-bodied and able to move but is being pushed in a wheelchair because they're just too big to move, that's just deadly. That's dangerous. And the fact that 1/3 of British kids are overweight or considered obese, that's horrific. That's horrific.
Junk food kids, who's to blame? The parents are.
Of course, it is parental responsibility and it is their fault. I can't blame a parent openly saying it's your fault because, you know, that's not the type of society we live in. No, it's nobody's fault these days. You know, that's it. That's how it is.
Parents.
And that's so true. I mean, we see a lot of it in My 600-Pound Life, or we've talked about it on this show, on this channel many times, on how nobody is ever to blame. People who are obese blame other people. They blame the enablers. They blame their childhood. They blame. It's always everybody else's fault. We see the fat acceptance people who blame. They say, oh, we can't do it on our own. It's not our fault. We grew up this way. Society is bullying us. Even though there's societal consequences and physical consequences of obesity, it's like their whole stick is trying to take the blame off of themselves and put it on other people. So it's always everybody else's fault.
Can, for want of a better word, be in denial of the part they may have played.
Fundamentally, it is parenting that's at the core of it.
And to be fair, the parents in this video are pretty bad. Very unsympathetic crew here.
There are some parents who will put their own convenience before the well-being of the child.
This mom in particular is extremely hard to watch, and it doesn't help that her daughter is extremely cute.
It's a bit tight.
I honestly do not believe she's put all this weight on just through what she eats. Thyroids. They said it might be something to do with that.
Sweet little chubby Tallulah here is not only obese, but has a mouthful of abscesses and tooth decay because her mom can't be bothered to get her to brush her teeth each night.
Does she brush twice a day though?
I mean, that's very interesting about the impact sugar has. Like, I've seen before, like in societies that didn't have sugar, like sugar is relatively new, maybe in the last 100, 200 years or so, in our diets. But before that, like if they dug up a skeleton, there was no tooth decay, there was no cavities, there was no dental issues. Like none of that existed until sugar became a normal part of our diet. So the fact that kids these days get cavities at such a young age, I mean, we think of it as a normal part of our society. Oh, you know, you're going to have cavities when you're younger and cavities when you get older, and it's because you don't brush and everything else. Most of it is because of the amount of sugar that we're eating. And so that's another thing that we're in denial about.
Only once.
Sometimes it can be twice,
But
but a
mainly
lot of
once.
it just once. It's like it's a chore for it. Why would you want to brush your teeth when you can sit downstairs and watch a bit of, Peppa Pig or do something else, it's...
I try not to judge on things like this because there's a lot of factors here that we're not discussing, but every word that comes out of her mouth just makes you so mad.
It was easier for me on a night to give her a bottle of juice than to try and sit up with her all night and try and get her back to sleep.
And that's a lot of it when it comes to parenting. I'm not a parent yet, but I do take care of my nieces, and they come over and spend the night or spend the weekend with me or whatever. And, that's a lot of fun. But I totally understand how it's easier as a parent or whatever. When they start begging and crying and screaming, it's like, all right, we'll give you this popsicle. We'll give you this to shut up. And that's kind of the beginning of a reward system that you start as a parent from a young age. They start learning that, okay, food, sugar is a reward that you get. So even if you're behaving badly, rather than putting up with that, parents just give them whatever they want. And it's having negative consequences on their health.
I like to just have an easy life. I think everybody likes an easy life.
But do we think that parents like Tallulah's mom have never existed before in history? Because surely they have. Of course they have. But just look at the childhood obesity rate. Here's the rate between 1963 and 2016. In just 50 years, it quadrupled to reach a whopping 20% of obese children. Type 2 diabetes used to be called adult onset diabetes because only adults got it, but they had to change the name because so many kids are getting diabetes now.
They're developing diseases which we used to see only in adults.
And
I wish the fat acceptance people could see this. I mean, it's 100% true. And it's ridiculous that they deny that the obesity comes with any issues. When we're seeing this in kids, kids are getting these diseases. Kids are getting onset diabetes that used to be only for adults. Kids are getting this stuff. They're getting bigger, and they're dying younger and younger. I mean, it's right here. It's plain to see. As obesity has been skyrocketing, so has cancer, so has diabetes, so has heart disease, so has strokes, so has everything else. And it's all connected to obesity and sugar.
I really think that this is a question that deserves more public consciousness. Why is everyone getting fat? Who is really to blame? But before we get into the video, a message from our sponsor. This video is sponsored by Athletic Greens. AG1 is nutrition made simpler. It's 75 vitamins. Back to the video. When surveyed, approximately 60 and 80% of people believed that parents and personal responsibility were primarily to blame for the rise in obesity.
Denisa and her parents have come to King's College Hospital to find out whether she's suitable for surgery. At nearly 16 stone, Denisa is double the weight a girl her age should be.
13-year-old Denise's parents also believe in personal responsibility. They blame Denise's obesity on her lack of willpower and inability to stick to a diet.
15 minutes after leaving the hospital, Denise's parents take her for one last treat.
She tried to lose the weight.
They blame her for her lack of willpower, but look at what they're doing. They're taking her into McDonald's for one last treat before weight loss surgery. Are you kidding me? At 13 years old, you need weight loss surgery? And the parents blame her and her lack of willpower. Look at what they're doing to her. It was much more convenient for the parents to take her out constantly, consistently to McDonald's, to fast food, to eating sugar and stuff like that. Like, they developed that sort of behavior within her. Like, they are to blame as much as she is. Yeah, it's willpower. That's a lot of it. But if you've done what you've done to have her develop this food addiction, like, that's not so much her fault because she's a little kid.
When she was 11, she tried to lose weight when she was 12, but got fatter and fatter.
Here's a thought, maybe that's because her prefrontal cortex isn't fully developed yet.
Yeah, we keep one diet all three together. It was very good, but now we cannot keep. She cannot give up the bread. She likes very much. And
Alright, so the reason your diet didn't work out is because of your kid. It's actually scary how both of these parents act so casually like it's their daughter's fault that everyone in their family is obese.
The hospital sent through a detailed...
No, it's the other way around, is that the parents like eating that way, so instead of blaming themselves, instead of taking responsibility and changing the fundamental diet in their household, they're going to blame their daughter. Well, she likes the bread, she likes the stuff, so we have to buy it and we have to eat what she likes. No, you're the parents. Stand up, put your foot down, and say no more.
diet plan for the family to follow. But Denise's parents have yet to put it into action.
Parents find it hard to keep to a diet, and that's why I can't start a diet, because they find it hard.
As a last resort for her obesity, Denise's family...
So you're going to kill your kid and watch her get fatter, even though you're getting fatter too, because you can't stick to a diet. And because you can't stick to it, she's not going to stick to it. And you're just going to keep blaming her when it's your fault.
...is considering gastric band surgery.
He's come to the conclusion that the surgery will be more effective than their attempts to diet.
But with the surgery, you don't have to give up of temptations. Yeah, you eat whatever you want.
No, that's not true. Denise doesn't even want the surgery either and seems to be afraid of it. It is so messed up.
You don't want the surgery anymore?
If the diet works.
Okay.
I don't want the surgery.
Yeah, okay. I'm okay with that.
They kind of told the side effects, and I didn't like them. One of them was that I could die.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. That is a major side effect that I was concerned about, and I'm sure everybody who gets weight loss surgery is concerned about, is it can kill you. I don't think someone who's 13 years old should be getting weight loss surgery. I don't. I mean, that's absolutely your decision, but as a parent, I would do everything I could. Like, weight loss surgery should be a last-ditch effort when you've tried everything else and you've gotten so big that it's a risk to your life, that the risk of being obese is bigger than the surgery itself, which was true in my situation. I was finally able to do it. I got into the right program. I was able to lose weight before surgery, but she's 13 years old and she's not like tremendously big. So I don't think it was worth it for her to do it. Like, she still has a chance. She still can grow up and grow into her body just a little bit. And if her parents sort of reversed course, then it would be much better for her, but they refused to do so. So they're more readily able to mangle their daughter's body than to go on a diet. Like, I think that's very selfish.
And I don't want to die.
Since her first appointment a month ago, Denise's family haven't managed to stick to the hospital's diet. Her parents think that surgery is her only option to lose weight.
And then the documentary just ends. They don't tell you if she goes on to have the surgery or not. Like, bariatric surgery is a last result. Kids shouldn't have that decision made for them because their parents don't want to go on a diet.
Dieting, changing your eating style. It's about the power of willing, you know, and we demonstrate that we are not that strong.
Are Denise's parents to blame for this situation? Absolutely. You could make a philosophical argument about ignorance here, but at the end of the day, they're not making an effort to change their diet, and they're pushing her into something that she's telling them that she doesn't want. I say that's fair to cast blame in this situation.
If surgery wasn't an option, I'd get fatter and be awful. I would be doomed.
I found this entire documentary extremely difficult to watch. I didn't even know if I was going to make a video about it because it's so sad. But as enraged as I am at this situation and her parents, I can't help but feel that we've also failed her as a society. The thing is, Denisa and Tallulah aren't outliers. They're part of a growing trend.
In every classroom, in every school in England or the UK, 1 in 3 children in that classroom will have a weight problem which will shorten their life and reduce the quality of their life. That's the scale of the problem.
And when the cheapest taste...
I mean, that's absolutely true. Obesity is going to shorten your life and diminish your quality of life. You can't escape that. So when I constantly say that you can't be obese and happy at the same time, that's exactly what I mean. Your life is diminished. Your quality of life is diminished. Your happiness is diminished. You're miserable. You're in pain. All of that is part of it, as well as the onset of diseases that just weren't a part of your life when you were younger, depending on when you started getting weight. But now kids are getting weight so much younger that it's hitting them so much younger, and it's just disgusting. The way that parents are treating their kids these days, and they see the diseases, they see the increase of diabetes and even high blood pressure at such a young age. They see them getting bigger and being more lazy, and they are doing absolutely nothing about it.
Tastiest, most convenient, most heavily marketed, widely available food is also the absolute worst for our health. There is much more to the story than bad parenting. As an adult, I feel personally responsible for my health choices, regardless of the difficulty of the food environment we find ourselves in. But children are not responsible, and they shouldn't have to pay the price if their parents are not willing or able to be the mediator. I don't think I've ever argued against personal responsibility in any capacity in my entire life, but here I am. Because you know who else loves the personal responsibility argument? The food industry, and somehow they've been almost entirely left out of this entire conversation.
Parents are always responsible. They have a responsibility, but so do other segments of our society.
I mean, we'll see what they say about this. as we watch this, but I'm really not as much blaming the food industry, right? Because it does 100% come down to our personal responsibility. Okay, there's ads on TV. Like if you sell a product, you're going to put an ad on TV, and that's just the way it is. You're going to make money off of that. That's their decision. But it's your decision whether or not you go to that restaurant. It's your decision whether or not you go to McDonald's. It's your decision what you buy at the grocery store. But at the same time, we're not so educated on what foods to eat because we are taught a sham of a food pyramid system, which absolutely is not true. It does not work. So we are ill-educated from the start, and then we have all these messages pumped into us, and it makes it even harder. So at some degree, like I just don't know what I feel, whether or not the food industry is as much to blame as willpower is. But the fact that they throw sugar in everything, and we can't even go to the grocery store without finding something without sugar in it, I mean, it's just absolutely reprehensible. But we'll see what this video has to say and whether or not I continue to agree.
As well.
And that was pretty much the only reference in the entire documentary to any other group sharing in responsibility for the childhood obesity epidemic. When the question is, who's to blame, you can't just not talk about the food industry. Here's a paper that demonstrates the extreme lengths the food industry will go to keep ordinary people in the dark about the reality of the food they're buying. To protect their commercial interests, food and beverage industry groups utilize many strategies, such as actively lobbying governments, vilifying scientific evidence that does not support their position, funding research studies designed to support their position, and asserting that obesity is simply a matter of personal responsibility.
All right, let's pause it right here. Food and beverage industry groups utilize many strategies such as actively lobbying governments, which is true. We've seen that the sugar industry pretty much bought off and created the whole food pyramid scam. They vilified scientific evidence, which we see the fat positivity group just really grab onto that vilified or that fake evidence, and they vilified the true scientific research that connects illnesses with obesity. So we do see this stuff happening, funding research studies designed to support their position, which is true because guess what? Big Sugar does have their own scientists. I'm sure Coca-Cola and McDonald's and all these people, they have their own scientists doing research that proves, oh, sugar's not the problem, fat is the problem, which is absolutely not true. You know, so all this stuff is true, right? I totally get that. But you absolutely know there's not a single person watching this video right now that doesn't know that McDonald's isn't healthy for them, who doesn't know that Coke or any type of soda product is not good for them. Even diet sodas are not good for you. Like everybody sitting here watching my video right now knows this. I mean, it's where are we being scammed? Where are we being ill-informed about things that we absolutely know is true? We still make the decisions that we make because we crave these things. And I've pounded the pavement many times talking about sugar addiction and why we run back to it and stuff like that. Like, you know all of that. You know all of it. And yet you still make the decisions that you choose to make when it comes to your food. I've made the decisions that I've made when it comes to food. I've not been perfect. Like, nobody has. Even though I understand the connection between sugar and addiction and how it lights up the same pleasure centers of the brain as cocaine and all of that stuff. Like, I know it. I've researched it, and many of you have it as well. So none of us are completely ignorant when it comes to the food choices that we make. We still choose them because we like those foods. We're addicted to them. They taste good. They give us pleasure. They bring us joy and comfort, and we celebrate with those foods. So none of us are really ignorant about it. So I don't know why we continue to blame them when it is a personal responsibility issue. That's just how I feel on it. If you disagree with me, let me know down below.
That means the food industry uses its immense resources, its money, its political pull to essentially subvert our ability to make informed dietary choices, while at the same time denying that they have any role to play in the obesity epidemic. In a full 20.5% of all email interactions with Health Canada, industry used the mechanism of shifting the blame and drawing attention away from industry, i.e. focusing on individual responsibility, the role of parents, or physical inactivity. Perhaps this is why only 35% of individuals selected the food industry as sharing in primary responsibility for the obesity epidemic.
I mean, yeah, you are, as a parent, responsible for the food that your kid eats. If you send your kid to school and you give them lunch money, then of course they're going to eat what's available at school. Or you could pack them a lunch and pack them a healthy lunch. When you get home from work and it's time for dinner, what do you make them? Do you bring home McDonald's? Do you order pizza because you're too tired to cook anything? Or do you still put the effort in preparing a healthy meal for them? So the food industry doesn't make you buy bad food. The food industry doesn't make you give them lunch money to give to your kids so that they can order soda and sugar and whatever else at school. The food industry doesn't make you do anything. They lobby, they advertise, but that's the extent of what they do. You still make the decisions that you make. So I guess I disagree with her so far on this, just on the food industry part.
In the future, I'm not saying I will, but I might get diabetes and I might not make it until I'm 30 or something.
I can't help but feel that we owe children a food environment that isn't at least actively hostile to their health. And if their parents don't know what is or isn't healthy, or they can't afford healthy food, or they don't have the time that it takes to prepare it, then these kids are essentially being left to fend for themselves while they're actively and knowingly being exploited by the food industry. I went to the grocery store to see how much junk food was being directly and observably marketed to kids. First thing that greeted me, a school bus full of Oreos. Kids' characters like SpongeBob, Paw Patrol, and Scooby-Doo were being used to sell candy. By the way, I'm pretty sure Paw Patrol is for kids between 2 to 5 years old. Is it not a little bit disturbing that they're trying to get 2 to 5-year-olds to eat candy by partnering with their favorite character? Lovable minions were slapped on biscuits. And these children's cookies even had the audacity of pretending to be healthy by claiming to be full of veggies and fruits. Also the cereal aisle, which is just rows full of friendly and fun mascots used to market to children since the dawn of time. And countless other products, all aimed directly at kids. I'm not even saying that kids can never eat these foods, I'm just saying it's a little bit messed up that the food industry is trying to have a conversation with kids whatsoever. And I think the satirical ad agency does a perfect job of explaining why this is such an issue.
This is the first agency in the world dedicated to marketing food and beverages to children, and only to children. Our research showed that their brains aren't fully developed yet. You'd think this would make our job harder. Actually, made it a lot easier.
The way we see it, sugar is like a drug for kids these days. I mean, they are basically addicted to the stuff, which is great because our products are pretty much selling themselves.
Which one sounds the most yummy?
It's straight up predatory behavior. And because of the millions of dollars spent on lobbying the government every single year, there is next to zero regulation standing in the way of these companies.
It's just hard not to eat what you want to eat. Some people, like me, are just too addicted to junk food. It's like somebody's inside you and they're controlling you. Something like that. And then it's just addictive, but when you see something, you take it, you do it again and again and again.
When the government considers doing its job in regulating things or even just updating the food guide like we have here in Canada, the industry, quote, uses financial incentives to influence decision makers or threatens legal action against critics or public policies, as well as this entire list of unsavory activities here.
Oh, let me go back to that.
Policies, as well as this entire list of
are providing funds to politicians, giving gifts to politicians, disseminating favorable information, shaping the evidence base, disseminating non-peer reviewed research, shifting blame away from industry, use of legal means, destabilization of opposition groups or individuals, criticize community organizations. Okay.
Unsavory activities here. You see how fruit juice is on the top rung of the food guide here, right next to regular old fruits and vegetables? The same juice partially responsible for Tallulah's rotting teeth.
Not a nursery. All of them hurt me.
According to this paper, when Health Canada considered removing it from the top rung, the food industry lobbied them, claiming it would negatively impact Canadians' health if they took it off there.
Yeah, that's absolutely stupid. I mean, fruit juice is not healthy for you, and there's so many people that think that it is. They think fruit smoothies are healthy, they think fruit juice is healthy, but you're just taking pretty much the sugar out of the fruit, taking the good fiber and vitamins and minerals that you need out of it to produce the sugary substance. And it's not healthy for you. So the fact that they have it on the top rung in the green and they call it 100% fruit juice, like, that's just pure sugar. That's all it is pure sugar. You're not getting very many vitamins and minerals out of it whatsoever. And it's just ridiculous. And just kind of looking at the background here, grain products are, and the yellow, grains are bad for you because they turn to sugar in the gut too. And the fact that they have meats and alternatives down below, meats are the healthiest for you. I mean, this is just completely backwards. And yeah, I understand that we are ill-informed about this stuff because the foods that we think should be on the top, really, it should be flipped around. And, you know, should we give them, the fake scientists, the government agencies, all this stuff, criticism? And the food industry, should we give them criticism? For sure, because they are lying to us. They are lobbying our kids. But at the end of the day, it is still about personal responsibility. So I guess I'm seeing both sides of this. It's a very interesting conversation to have.
And so despite the fact that we now know that juice without the fiber is not very healthy for most people, it remained on the top rung for years. Being an obese kid is not only unhealthy, but really hard.
People bully me about my appearance. I get really mean things like, you're ugly, nobody likes you, cover your scarf because you're killing everybody with your ugliness and that. It's just really nasty. I'd like to lose half my weight, that would be really good. And then I could stop worrying about everybody looking at me, giving me dirty looks and that, because that's what happens sometimes.
But when the cheapest, tastiest, most convenient, heavily marketed food is also the most unhealthy food, then these stories aren't surprising. They are simple economics.
Do you use kind of convenience stuff? And how much of it would you say?
About 90%.
90% convenience?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because it's convenient.
It's easy to string some messed up footage together of kids getting preventable illnesses due to neglect and conclude that parents and responsibility are to blame for childhood obesity. But this is a very complex issue. It's more than just parents, it's more than just personal responsibility. There are countless stories on Reddit of parents claiming that they've never bought their kid junk food, and yet their kid is addicted to it. It's just a little suspect to me if you make an entire documentary with the subtitle, "Who's to Blame?" and then you don't even mention the food industry whatsoever. Obviously, I barely scratched the surface on any of this, but I have an upcoming video, in the distant future. I don't want to give it all away just yet. Thanks for watching, and I'll...
Alright, yeah. To conclude this, I can see all sides of this. I'm not saying the food industry plays no part. If I made it sound like that, I'm sorry. If you're still watching, the food industry does play a major part of this. The government plays a major part of this. They've been lying to people for years. But at the end of the day, I feel like we all know what we should be eating and what we shouldn't be eating. We've just made the decisions that we want to make. And maybe we didn't know just how bad or how addictive sugar is. And we see certain things like fruit juice and we think it's healthy. We see things like yogurt and think it's healthy. We see all these foods and think they're healthy for us because they've been marketed to us as such. Just like those snacks that she said had fruits and veggies on them, but they were just pure sugar snacks. And crackers and stuff like that. Like, we think those things are healthy for us because they're marketed as such. They're marketed with whole grain wheats, and you need your servings of that. And the sugary cereals marketed the same exact way. So I understand that there's a lot of misinformation, a lot of bad science out there that really plays this stuff up. So I understand that 100%. But our goal should be eat as clean as possible. Less processed foods, less packaged foods, less foods that need to be thrown in the freezer, right? If we eat as clean as possible, we're going to get healthy, we're going to lose weight. But that's so hard to do because there's just so much junk food pumped into the system. But yeah, I do blame parents more because they just really decided that, okay, I'm too busy to take care of my kid the way that I need to. And so I'm going to give them the junk food. I'm going to give them the chips. I'm going to give them the popsicle. I'm going to give them lunch money rather than making them lunch. And just all of that is true 100%. So if you raise your kid from the very beginning to eat healthy, to eat clean, they're not going to get into that junk food. They're going to think it's too sweet for them. They're not going to like it because they're used to clean eating. But it's just too easy for us to give in and make the cheap processed foods a bigger part of their diet. And so anyways, I'm going to let you guys go from there. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Please be kind. Don't trash people or anything else like that. We can have a civil conversation about these things. So I really appreciate you guys. I love you, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll see you tomorrow. God bless you.